Cool. Okay. So let's just recap kind of where we left off on Tuesday. And so, so we went through the process of creating this inventory UI such that as we pick up items, our UI will get populated with the different items, and then from there, as we collect new items, you would see new items appear. So we're kind of moving along and say kind of building up this inventory system. So kind of the next piece so in the current assignment, right now when you pick up an item, you just have that item. And so if you create multiple items in assignment 4, what's going to happen is that whatever the last item is you picked up, that's the one your character is going to be able to use. And so now we want it such that as we pick up items, we want the character to, or we want the player to be able to choose which item they want to use at any point in time. And so I just want to go back and just kind of highlight that again for y'all. So if I break up that, I break up the tree. So there's a mud block. Whoop, I thought I had different items here.
Forget to save.
Maybe. Nope, there it is.
Put it in the wrong spot.
There. So, so here now I have three delicious apples and 1 block of wood. And so, I don't believe the use. Oh, the use is working. So actually, right now, whoops. See, I can. Actually, I'm going to zoom in so it's a little bit easier to see. But right now, so this is actually tied in. The inventory manager is tied in. So I can break that apart, and then grab the one up here. Whoops. And so we use the right click to use the item. And so right now, whoops. So doing the right click. There it is. You got into the funky state. So so it says right. So you should be able to right click and it will drop the item. But I said right now this isn't tied into the character to say I'm going to pick one of these. I'm going to pick an item that I want it to be used. And so we have to figure out kind of how to tie that together to the game. So really, it goes back to tying the UI to kind of events that are happening in the game. If I open up, so we come look at our Unity, our inventory manager. So right now, if I come back, so if I add an item, so if an item gets added, and it's the first time it gets added, it goes to the set active slot. And so set active slot, if I come down here, now what it's doing is saying, I'm going to set this slot to whatever the index is, and this code mimics kind of what we did previously in assignment 4 for when we picked up an item. So when we picked up an item, we just said grab the use equipment off the player and then set whatever our current item is when we just picked up. And now this is being handled for our inventory manager to say when we add an item, we're going to call this set active slot, and now these are going to be called. And so we have these. So really, this set active slot, this is responsible for choosing out of those different UI elements, or those different inventory elements, which one we want to have active. And so in the inventory manager, we have these 5 methods here: slot 1, slot 2, slot 3, slot 4, slot 5. So these should map onto our inventory window. And so now we just need to do the process of actually setting this up such that if I pick one of the slots, then I call the right method then to get that to be active. So I'm going to come back to our canvas. So here in HUD inventory, so HUD inventory contains all the different slots. I'm going to come back to the scene. You can see that. And so for a toggle, so a toggle is just like a button. And so the difference between the two is that a toggle, you can have one and only one toggle be active at any time, whereas a button, you don't have that level of control. But if you look at the bottom here, there's this on value change. And so we can look, and so on value change, this works for buttons and toggles, as well as kind of aim the sliders. But it's another kind of callback function that, as a user manipulates Andy's UI elements, you can have it where you can detect that in change and then do something, and then call code on some other game object that exists in your scene. And so if I were to come and press on this, and so I can look at kind of what's in the scene right now, and in this case, what I'm really interested in is interacting with that inventory manager. And so that's tied to my main, so wherever your character is, so in this case mine's Woody. And now, if I click on that, so I have the character selected as the object I'm interested in. But now if I come back and look at functions, it's now showing me the different components that are tied to that object. So we have a stripe under, we have our character controller, a rigid body, tactile collider. I hope it's not showing more than 6. The different pieces to it, and and you can look at these, but these are all public methods. And so if you remember, the public methods are the ones that are exposed to other portions of the code. So if you want to call a method outside of the object, you have to define it as public. And so here for inventory manager, now we have all these different, well, that's the one I want anyway, the slot 1 active. And now I can say, and then here it gives a little check mark, because this is, this method, it takes a Boolean as its parameter. So really what we're telling it is, I want to call this, and I'm going to set that to true or false. And so in this case, I want it to be set to true. And just to show you, so if I come back to use manager, so you can see, like if I chose a different method, so if your inventory clicked, this takes an integer as its value, and now here I can set whatever the value is. So really what I'm doing is I'm calling that method and telling it what value I want to pass into it. So I'm going to go back and set this to what we really want, which is the slot active equal to true. And so I can go back. So for the rest of them, go ahead and set that up. So I'm going to set up Woody in the scene. Like I said, it's another instance where you need to kind of line up everything and make sure it's correct. Okay, almost done. Great. All right, so if I go back just to make sure, I think all of those are set appropriately. So scroll down one. There should be two. Yeah. So now we can kind of test this. So let's just go ahead and test this out and see what happens. In fact, actually what I'll do, just to be fun, so I'm going to go back, I'm going to just keep that, turn off maximize on play, I'll highlight the character, and if you remember, if you run with debug, so up here in the tab, you can have the normal view of the inspector, or you can have a debug view. In the debug view, this allows for seeing or viewing the private member variables that are within the object. And so here for use equipment, it may be a little hard to see, but at the very bottom here, there's this set current item. And so, current item. So this shows what we're currently holding on to use. So if I click the inventory, I should see this value change as long as I have something within any of those inventory items. So let's just try this out, see if it works. So if I break this, get that. All right, so you can see I have it set to Apple, and so the way that the code was written is that anytime you get a new item and it fills an empty slot within the inventory, then we go ahead and just make that the current item. And so if I were to click on that, it stays the same. Now you see I clicked away. You should see that this is now none. So it went away from the apple because what's inside these? Nothing. So that's why they have it set to none. And likewise, now I can come back over here. I think this is where the wood. Now if I were to click on that, now it shows the wood, which shows the apple. If I drop, I dropped it somewhere. I can't see it. I think it fell behind there. But now I can select that, put it down there. So it's great. All right. So like I said, so this highlights how we tie. Anytime the user interacts with a UI element, how we can have that impact something that's transpiring in the game. Like I said, it's just based upon the UI element that you have, it's either be a slider or a button or something like that, it should have a value available, or so that kind of on value change method that then allows you to pick something that's happening in the scene and call a method on that object to then modify or to be able to access something that's happening in the game scene. So, pretty cool stuff. All right. So, like I said, right now, so this is working such that it we can pick up items and we can drop items. There's another piece. I think I briefly talked about it. There's this idea of a backpack. So if I press I, so right now I get this kind of huge list, this kind of big list. And so I'm going to actually, so let me start playing again. So I want to have some items available to show you what's happening. So I'm going to pick that up. Okay, now if I press I, so we get these values here. And so what the idea of the backpack is supposed to do is to allow you, as you pick up more and more items, whatever can't fit in that bar, it'll then start moving into this backpack. Then the idea is that you should be able to select anything in your backpack and bring it down to then make it available within the inventory UI that you can see in the game. So right now, so we just have this this array here, and then like here's the, I guess so we have this backpack inventory, and then each of these is a slot. And so a slot, it's again an image. So we have an image that has an image and a bit of text associated with it. But each slot too, let me turn off the debug. There, that's a little easier. So every slot that you see in that grid, it's really just a button. So here we have an image and a button. And so again, we come down here, so a button, so instead of that on value change, like we saw a toggle, it has this on click. So anytime you click the button, you can have an event register to have something transpire. And so what we need to do is tie kind of what any interactions that we have with the backpack into code that we have within the inventory manager. So the inventory manager, I briefly showed this without really explaining what it was. That inventory clicked, so I used that as an example beforehand, but really what this does is it looks to see what you're accessing in that backpack and then saying it to what we're calling the holding object. And so really what this is set to do is that when you pick an item out of the backpack, it'll then allow you to hold on to it and then move it somewhere else kind of within that backpack. But we need it set up such that when we do the inventory click, we have that tied to the different slots that are within that backpack. So it's again kind of doing the same thing we had previously. So I'm trying to so I want to access Woody, and I want to access the inventory manager, and this time it's inventory clicked, and then I can set the value. So one thing that you probably know that you should be aware of is that there's a bunch of these slots. So how do you deal with like do you want to go through here and set every single one of these? Probably not. I certainly don't. But so what you can do, so if you highlight these objects, so if you remember, if you highlight multiple objects within the scene in the inspector, what it does is it looks at all the objects and then shows you, what components they have in common. And then if there are any values that are shared in each of the components, that's what it shows you. So in this case, all these slots, they all have the image and the button, and they all use this background gray sprite. So that's how it shows you. It says right now it's just showing you everything that's in common between all those objects. And so I can come down here, so I have them all highlighted. I can do it, I can set multiple of these. So I can say Woody, inventory clicked. Whoops, probably shouldn't have pressed that. Oh, there it goes. So it did set. So Unity was smart enough for the value here, so for the index value, it just matched it onto what was or what order that object came in. So here you can see it goes 0, 1, 2, 3, 4. So instead of having to go through and edit each of those manually, instead you can do that group select, and it's smart enough to know to set the index based upon where that object existed in your list of objects. So that's pretty cool. So I'm going to run this just to demonstrate that this is kind of working. So here I got my character. Let's break some stuff. So I'll break that. All right. And now I have my backpack. If I click this, now I can pick it up and move it. So say if I move it there, and I move it there, and then I press I. So now you can see, the item is now moved down to the bar here, and my apple's now hiding somewhere in my backpack. So I said, so this, so it gives you a little bit more experience just with how to set up or time UI elements to objects that are in the game. And then this also gives you, like I said, kind of cool features. So if you wanted to set up a game where you can collect a bunch of various objects, you can have it where you can store all those objects somewhere rather than say just limiting yourself to what the character can pick up. So pretty cool. All right, so with all that, so that covers handling how to do the inventory. So being able to have the inventory UI, being able to pick up objects, use objects, and have the inventory tracked to make sure that you're collecting and using everything that's there. So kind of the next part of the assignment, and so we have probably about 10 minutes left. So I think I'll briefly kind of start on the latter part, which is to set up kind of a checkpoint system. So in your in the games that you'll all be creating for your final project, or as you're working on this, you can see we're building some type of side scroller environment. So the idea is that you want to have your character start at a particular location, and then end up and then have them we try to get to some end goal or some end point. And then we want to track when the characters arrive at a different checkpoint or an endpoint to have something happen in the game. So the assignment, the way we're setting it up is that if the character reaches the endpoint, then we want some text to show up and say like, "You did it, great job." And then you can have them press a button and start back at the beginning. So what we can do to kind of get it started is to build up those two objects. So by two objects meaning the start point and end point, and then start playing with how we need the characters to interact with it. So let's see. Let me go to this scene view. I'm going to come back to my character. Let's see. So, okay, I put my character right now kind of in the middle of the scene. And so, right now I just want to have like a start point on the left and then have an end point on the right. So what we can do to create this, so I'm going to create an empty object. I'm going to call that my start point. Let's see if I put the little arrows on it. So now I can see it. So I'm going to move this. Let me zoom in so I can kind of better gauge where it's at. Ah, shoot. So you can see how I'm struggling mightily here because, for our start, so maybe our endpoint we want to have like a flag or something like that to make show, this is where you're going for. The start point, more often than not, it's just a location that's in the level. You don't necessarily see it, but it makes it a real pain if I'm trying to look at the editor to figure out what's going on. So a trick you can do within Unity, if you come to this like cube up here, so this cube allows you to put icons on different objects. So you can, and so the icons just end up being just a little symbol that allows you to identify different objects. And so if I say I use that, so now I have this start point icon. So now I can see where the heck do I actually put this thing. And this is something that doesn't appear. It doesn't appear when the game plays. It's only used as a kind of a gizmo or just a cue that you have in the editor. So here I'm going to put my start point. And if I come to, let's say my character, so for my character, so there's kind of a few ways we can do this. So probably the easiest thing to do is instead of modifying an existing script, we just make a new one. So I'm going to go ahead and just make a new script here. Whoops, come back. Let's call it character start. And so for character start, so in this case what I want to do is I'm going to tie this to the character and then just have the character appear at the location that is specified for the start point. So here I'm going to provide the point. We'll call it start point. And then here I can say game object dot transform dot position is equal to start point position. And so because I called it, and so because I put this at the start, so what will happen is that when the game begins, and if the character is present, this method will get called. And so I'm going to go ahead. I'm going to come back to my Woody character. I'm just going to add that. Oops. Just find it. Character start. So now I need to provide it the point. Give it start point. All right. So let's see what happens. Yeah. So you can see, the character appeared all the way over here. And like I said, I can change wherever I put my start point. So I put it right over that little pit. And now, so once the character starts, that's where it's going to designate as the start point. So on Tuesday, what we'll do is that we'll take the same idea, but for the checkpoints, we'll change it up a bit, because for the checkpoints, we need to know when a player reaches it. So can anybody venture a guess what we need to add to these points to kind of know when a character has reached it? What? Yes. So it's going to be a collider, and we're going to use it in a different way, because everything we've done so far has been just looking at two items that collide and having some physical effect transpire. And what we want instead now is we'll have, actually I can just briefly start this. I'm going to add, let's come up here and say create an empty object. So checkpoint. But in this case, what we'll do is that if we set it to a trigger, so by saying to a trigger, what this does is that the character or anything can now just pass through this object. We can still detect that an overlap has transpired, or the collision transpired, but we're not going to engage in the physics of it. It's just we're going to allow the object to pass through. Like I said, we'll just write this as checkpoint so I don't forget. I'll give it a fancy. Yeah, so we'll pick up on this. We'll pick up this on Tuesday to show how to get this set up such that when the character crosses through it, we can trigger. So really kind of going the opposite way. So we've been talking about UI elements. If the player interacts with them, then have that do something in the game. And now we'll show it kind of going the other way, where something transpires in the game, and now we want something to then change or appear in the UI. So we'll show how to do that on Tuesday. So let me turn this